day of my life.
All right, we're gonna end it there because last time I played perhaps a little bit too much of a song by one of my fave bands. So what I did is I hit the button to just delete it, but it was Death Cab for Cutie. I Will Follow You Into the Dark, and whoever publishes or owns that library or owns that music is really strict about copyright. It's the first time I've ever had like my video blocked. Kind of a proud moment in a certain kind of strange sense. Anyway, that's a remake of Thank You, which I'm almost 100% sure was originally a Dido song. It's a nice rendition. Thought I would make that the song of the day. This is episode 60 for May the 29th. That was Thank You by Imaginary Future. And my commentary will be about how British Columbia seems to be like a COVID-free paradisium, like a paradise. How is it that we only have 4 new cases today? How is that even possible? Is it like a lack of testing or something? It's like we're in the twilight zone of awesomeness, but foreboding, because what has to come next must be more cases, right? I mean, talk about the interlude between waves. There has to be a second wave. There can't not be a second wave. Vaccine tomorrow, still a second wave. So what's going on? I don't know. It's odd. I guess we're just super careful here and not letting anybody in. I mean, we have armed guards at the border between BC and Alberta? I don't think so. Like that we're not importing more cases across even the BC Alberta border shocks me. I know the US border is closed. I mean, it's almost just too good to be true. I've had this comment before, but it's just, wow, really? Word of the day, bagatelle. What does that mean? Well, what it means is a thing of little importance in the definition that I'm most interested in anyway, or apparently a very short piece of music, typically for the piano, and usually a bit of a light mellow character. But back to the thing of not such great importance. Dealing with these boats was a mere bagatelle for the world's oldest yacht club, said like this.
Bagatelle.
Yeah, not a word I've ever heard. Origin? Italian baga for baggage, and Latin berry. Baggage berry? What the hell? I'm not even going to try to understand that. Anyway, that's the word of the day. Maybe one of the more strange efforts. Quotes of the day. Not only are we uncertain about how and when we'll come out of this, we're also unsure about the world we will find on the other side. We feel oddly convinced that nothing will be the same. It's as if the president has woken us up from a kind of dream, and yet, very much like the painter's daughter and the falling rogue, this is references to prior. It's a long-form piece in the New York Times Magazine. We feel that we are involved in some sort of experiment in living. The moment is charged with opposing temptations. Will we rethink our attitudes to nature and commence in order to address? Will we rethink our attitudes to nature and to commence in order to address the health of our planet and the violent inequities in our society? Will we remember the compelling force with which we've been reminded of how deeply interconnected and reliant we are on one another? That we are not only part of nature, but also part of a single organism? Will we honor the passion we felt for kindness? Will we, in other words, stay true to the vision we glimpsed of our better selves through this pandemic? That of generosity, heroism, and compassion? Or will we go the other way and yield to the dark calls of those who insist that the lessons to take from this are that we should fear the stranger even more, build higher walls, and practice a resolute policy of intolerance to difference in reason? Our history shows that we are paradoxically good at learning from the past as well as remaining somewhat unchanged by it. So I think both of these things happen. And I think they happen in alarming disproportion. Hisham is a good writer. He's won a Pulitzer Prize. Good enough for me. Better than me. That's why he's quoted, and I'm not writing. So many things make America combustible right now. Mass unemployment, a pandemic that's laid bare murderous health and economic inequalities, teenagers with little to do, police violence, right-wingers itching for a second civil war, and a president eager to pour gasoline on every fire. I think we're indeed I think we're indeed in a moment where things are going to get a lot more tense before they get more peaceful, said the University of Michigan historian Heather Ann Thompson, who herself won a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, it's like they're giving these things out like candy. Anyway, for her 2016 book, Blood in the Water, the Attica prison uprising of 71 and its legacy, and this was in an article written by Michelle Goldberg in the Times. It's almost like the Times won't get near you unless you have a Pulitzer, which is one of the reasons why the Times is one of the last bastions of good journalism in the world, in my opinion, and why a lot of what you see in this commentary is ultimately originates in the Times. News: SpaceX goes up tomorrow at 12:22 p.m. Pacific, weather permitting. I will be watching that live. Trump says U.S. is terminating its relationship with the WHO as a rift with China grows, which makes me wonder how much of what Trump's done in the past 4 years will just have to be unwound by Biden. Just like day one, like his list is long. Like, oh, by the way, we do want to be part of the WHO, and by the way, we will fund our fair part of the WHO, and we'll stop fighting with China, maybe, and on it goes. Another article about older Italians that have this tremendous tension watching young people sort of have happy hour and carry on as normal. Just imagine this is this woman featured in this article is 59, so she's not that old, but she's still fearful of the behaviors that young people are undertaking because they feel a little bit like safe, that affect negatively the health of older people. It's that inequality of how COVID affects people that creates this continuous kind of fear, legitimate fear among the elderly relative to the younger people in the world. Quarantine chat. Get this. You call somebody, you download an app for your phone, and it connects you randomly to people. You're not meant to reveal your name or anything particular. You just share stories about COVID. It's like this and it's super popular. Imagine, there's this article, it goes into detail. There's this woman calls a guy, gets connected to somebody in Bangladesh, and he just tells her a story about getting his haircut for the first time in 2 months. And that's the whole, it's like a 5-minute interaction. Other calls go on for like hours. It's called quarantine chat. It's super freaking interesting. Phone calls with strangers can reintroduce random connections in our lockdown lives and be a balm for loneliness and grief. Pick of the day. This is me. Oh man, this is now almost exactly 3 years ago with my Kona Orange, which got destroyed, and I got replaced by blue Kona of current year vintage. A couple of comments on this. A, this bike shop burned down. B, this frame no longer exists. C, about 20 pounds of the weight on that guy's body no longer exist. And that hat blew off when I was burning around in a speedboat last summer. So the hat's gone, the bike is gone, the store is gone, and yet I remain. Positive life change of the day. I sat alone in Earl's at a table for two, read a book, ate a top-notch, super healthy salad, and drank a Diet Coke. And I didn't even consider the happy hour drinks menu for 1 second. I weigh 158 pounds. What more need be said? With that, I will sign off and let you guys go after 8.5 minutes. Thanks for listening to these. Talk soon.